I'd like to call a meeting to order. This is the March 9th, 2016 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. The first item on tonight's agenda is a request for a certificate of compliance continued from the prior meeting, Eno, Martin, and Donahue LLP concerning 227 Westview Road. Project location is 185 to 219 Westview Road, and a release is sought for Lot 6 only. Attorney Martin, if you could identify yourself for the record.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name's Bill Martin, attorney with offices at 21 George Street in Lowell. As you indicated and you read the notice, we are seeking a partial certificate of compliance for Lot 6 on the subject plan. There was an order of conditions that affected several lots, and there was significant or some wetlands replication required on Lot 7. In the original order, the only sort of specific work for this lot, Lot 6, was that the building stay within the building envelope shown on the plan. And there was a as-built plan submitted for Lot 6 showing that that was the case. So, again, I was doing the loan work here for the homeowner. This came up as an open order, and we were hoping on the basis of the fact that there's very little wetlands even on Lot 6 and no work required, and the fact that we meet the special condition, that would be adequate for the commission to issue a partial certificate of compliance for this lot.
I'm assuming you've been up to the property?
I've been by there, yes.
Okay,
And,
all
yeah.
right. The chair will note that Attorney Martin was a longtime member and prior chairman before my time even on the commission, so I think he's got a fair amount of expertise in this matter. I don't have any specific comments. Other than from looking at the plan, the foundation, the house that was built is not within the resource area or buffer zone. So it's just the back. It's just the back portion of the lot. The only reason we had a couple of questions, I think the main one was that there was a fence. I think a chain link fence that was placed somewhere in the rear portion of the lot, and that it doesn't appear to be affecting the resource from what I can tell since I've had a chance to go out there myself. So, has anyone been out there, other than me? And is there any comments for Attorney Martin?
No comments. Yeah, I didn't think the fence impacted it either, but, we didn't know, obviously.
Yeah, it was an open
survey.
question from the last meeting, and I took a drive-by, and it didn't appear to be anything that was troubling to me. It looks like the project was built up fairly well. So, do I have a motion to issue a partial certificate of compliance Christine, do we have a DEP file number on that order?
Yes, we do.
Do you happen to know what it is? It's 206-03.
I have it, 206-0576.
0576? Okay, even closer than I thought. All right, so this would be for Lot 6 only.
Correct.
Right. Okay, do I
Move to issue a partial certificate of compliance for Lot 6.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and consideration. Have
All
a
right.
good evening.
Good night.
Thanks.
Moving on to the second item on tonight's agenda is an enforcement order also continued from the prior hearing. Lacerda Masonry, violation location is 76 Magnolia Street, and its disruption of land subject to flooding was observed during a site inspection conducted on February 11th, 2016. The homeowner was ordered to install a silt fence and straw wattle along the entire property line. This enforcement order was issued by, I believe, our conservation agent.
Yes.
And was ratified by the Conservation Commission at the last meeting. And since that, and we had requested that siltation be put up immediately, and if I recall correctly, we got an email just a day or two later with pictures indicating that that had been done.
Yes, and the loose soil had been tarped as well.
Okay. So what's the status of it now?
So we had a site inspection today, and there's still a pile of loose wood that needs to be removed. And I do think at this point there is still some track marks from the heavy machinery that was on the property last time, so I do think there should be some remediation discussions.
Yes, sir, are you here for this? Yeah. All right, come on up. And if you could just introduce yourself for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Fabio Lacerda, and property on 76 Magnolia Street, Lowell, Massachusetts.
Okay, so tell us, Mr. Lacerda, is that right, Lacerda?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize earlier for mispronouncing it.
Sorry.
What are you doing out there?
We remodeled the house, and what happened was I brought a machine in, excavator, to place the dumpster close to the house so we can start demolition. And that was the problem. They thought I was do some digging, and I wasn't. So I bought a couple loads of loom because the property got a great yard, and I like to level it off if I could. That's the reason I did that. And then all this came up, so I don't know if I can remove that if I have to, but my question, if I will be able to do what I want to do, level the backyard.
Okay, all right, so firstly, your dumpster, that's okay. Unfortunately for you, we've had a terribly warm winter, and when the machinery came in, it chewed up the ground and stuff like that. So, I mean, normally that would be the time to do it, right? Because the ground would be frozen and it wouldn't be an issue. The problem is you're so close, you're abutting the clay pit brook. And because of that, any activity that's within certain distances of the clay pit brook, both what we call a riverfront area, which extends out 25 feet from the top of the bank, and buffer zone, which extends out 100 feet from the top of the bank, or from any other vegetated area that's adjacent to that area, so it could be much further than 100 feet. I'm just saying at a very minimum, it's 100 feet. Your entire yard basically is in buffer zone. Certainly, the pictures I saw were much closer to the clay pit brook. So because of that, you need to let the Conservation Commission know what your plans are, and there's a formal process to do that. So to answer your second question, what can you do going forward is you would need to file what we call either a notice of intent, depending upon how significant the work is, or a request for determination of applicability. If all you're doing is reseeding, okay, because that area is floodplain, you're not allowed to regrade it. Okay? You're not allowed to disturb within 25 feet of the clay pit brook. Okay, that means you can't dig it up, you can't put topsoil over it. You wouldn't be able to do that anyway because it is floodplain. Okay, the clay pit brook watershed and the Merrimack River watershed and the floodplain areas around there are being taxed heavily. And people, your neighbors, your neighborhood, and even yourselves are suffering for it. So what you need to do is stay in touch with our office, with Christine, as to the necessary filings you need to do going forward. Currently, right now, there's an outstanding enforcement order that needs to be addressed. So what the enforcement order right now states is that you have to restore the area that was disturbed to its pre-disturbed state, which means if it was seeded, you have to seed it. You have to, if it wasn't seeded, if it was wild, that you have to reintroduce ground cover that will prevent erosion from going off into the Clay Pit Brook. It's critical now because we're rapidly approaching spring, and as the rains pick up, a lot of the material that you disturbed will wash down into the Clay Pit Brook, which is not allowed. Okay, so that's the reason for the siltation barrier. Okay, so your questions about what can you do going forward, can you bring in loam and whatnot, the simple answer to that is probably not. Okay. The more complicated answer to that is you might be able to, provided that you're farther enough away from the resource area, and again, that's the Clay Pit Brook, and that you're not in a floodplain. Even if you are in a floodplain, you sometimes can do that work, but you have to provide compensation for what you're doing somewhere else that isn't in a floodplain, okay? That's not at the same elevation, okay? None of that you can do just by eyeing it with a shovel and an excavator. You actually need to have someone with a little bit of expertise with setting elevations, and, typically a civil engineer, depending on the scope of the work, it might not be that complicated. We have allowed repavement of driveways in floodplains as long as the prior elevation is staked, and we can match that elevation after the repavement is going on. And usually it's a grind in place. I forget what they call that process, but they reuse what's already there. This is an indication where you say you want to bring in loam, and that's unfortunately under the Wetlands Protection Act is not allowed. Okay. I'm not saying it's an absolute prohibition, but it has to be done with the proper permit from the commission here. Okay.
What about, another question, sir? The 2 piles I have there now, it's more close to the house to the brook. Should I move that out of there?
So those were piles that
It's covered.
that was loom that you brought in?
Yeah, I brought in, yeah.
Okay, I'm not looking at the site now. Is there anywhere on the property that's outside of the floodplain?
No, the entire property.
The entire yeah, no, unfortunately, that has to be removed,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
It has to be taken off-site.
Like I say, just very close to the house and the driveway. It will be easy to get
Yeah.
a machine and just remove that. Okay,
Okay,
all right.
all right.
Is
So
anything
going
else?
forward, you're going to want to, because as I said, there's still an open enforcement order, you're going to want to stay in touch with the office as far as proceeding goes, and to proceed, I don't know what your plans are. If you're just restoring, it can be done under the enforcement order. If you want to make some changes and alterations, then at a very minimum, you need to be filing a request for determination of
I'll do that.
applicability. Okay?
Okay, I'll do that.
But
Thank you very
this isn't over yet. This is just, we wanted you to come in, we want to know what is going on, and we wanted to make sure that you're aware of the fact that going forward, you need to work through the office with the appropriate permits.
I'll definitely be
Okay.
in touch with
All
you
right.
guys. Okay,
All
thank
right,
you very much.
We're not done yet. Are there any questions, any other questions or comments from the commission? Is there anything from the office? All right, so stay in touch. I know that the piles have to be removed. Before you do that, if you could send an email or a phone call.
She'll be in touch with?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, okay. And then let us know when when it's all
removed.
been removed, let us know, and then the office will be in touch as to what, what was there before? Was it lawn?
Just loan, yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have to,
It's like up and down, so that's why I was trying to level it off, but
you're gonna have to stabilize that, and that means reseeding it, so,
definitely, no
Okay.
problem. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you guys, have a good evening. Bye.
good night. Moving on to tonight's third item is also a certificate of compliance, Innovative Engineering Solutions concerning DEP file number 206481. The project location is 1 Cayenne Street, and it was an order of conditions was issued on July 20th, 2003, and an extension was granted for the order to be expired on July 20th, 2005 for proposed work of hazardous waste remediation activities. How's it going out there?
Well, it's going well. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? If you could identify yourself.
I'm Joe Higgins with Innovative Engineering Solutions. Thank you for seeing us again, Mr. Chairman. It's been a while.
And you're the LSP on the site, right?
I am.
Yes, okay.
Little background on what happened. We came in front of you, I think it was in 2000, not 2003. And the commission issued an order of conditions to do the cleanup of the Chandonnet property. And the Chandonnet property, for those of you that don't know, he used to reclaim transformers, and our client, National Grid, had sent transformers to Mr. Chandonnet. And they had oil in them. The oil had PCBs. The PCBs got on the ground. Mr. Chandonnet went out of business. National Grid is now trying to clean the property up. So we were in front of the commission in 2000 with the plan to clean the property up, and the commission granted an order. We then had to go in front of EPA to get approval for the cleanup because the concentrations of PCBs were such that EPA needed to approve the cleanup. They did not approve the cleanup because the plan wasn't submitted by the property owner at the time, Mr. Chandonnet. National Grid attempted to purchase the property initially. EPA rules didn't allow the purchase of PCB contaminated property at the time. It was illegal commerce of PCBs under the regulations. So cleanup didn't happen for a couple of years. EPA changed the regulations. National Grid tried to buy the property again. The taxes were so much on it that we couldn't come to an agreement on it, and then eventually the city took the property for a tax taking. We've been working with the city redevelopment group, Sarah Brown, on a cleanup plan there. We did an extensive investigation on Chandonnet's property since then. We've come back to you for several requests for determination of applicability for investigation activities, and we have found that the PCB problem is actually fairly widespread on Cayenne Street. In the midst of all this, we lost track of the order of conditions. So we would like to withdraw that, get the certificate of compliance, and once we get approval from the various property owners on Cayenne Street on our cleanup plan and get approval from EPA, we will be back in front of you for another order of conditions to implement that cleanup.
So let me get this straight. You said you want to withdraw the certificate of compliance?
No, we want to get a certificate of compliance.
Yeah, you want to get the
We want to
certificate
get
of...
a certificate. We want to withdraw the order, close the order out.
Right, okay. So going forward, you're going to be applying for a new order?
Yes.
All right, so I know that, I don't know when the original day, this has been kicking around for a long time, and I know some of the extensions were most likely automatic under the governor's order extension. There was several executive orders that extended a lot of these orders automatically anyway by law, so how would you characterize, if you can, how far along you are in the process of remediating this site?
We have a conceptual plan in place. We've done some bench scale testing to do some in situ treatment, and the cleanup plan right now is to do some excavation, in situ stabilization, and capping. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 6 different property owners we need to meet with and get their agreement on this cleanup plan. While we were doing the investigation for the PCBs, the property located at 15 Cayenne Street, which is now owned by Colonial Gas, which National Grid owns Colonial Gas, we found a mercury problem there from the old wood preservation operations with the canals. So that is complicated to clean up somewhat. That's why we're going with an in situ soil stabilization process there.
Okay. All right, so I mean, all right,
To answer your question, if you're familiar with the MCP at all,
Yep.
we're through phase 3 of the MCP process.
okay. All right. When are we going to see you back here for,
I don't know. I don't know how soon we can get the property owners to agree with what we want to do. We're dealing with the MBTA, number one. We're trying to get a meeting set up with Sarah at the City of Lowell, and we're exchanging dates right now with her. And we've got a few other property owners we need to rein in and talk to them.
so I guess I'm still then I'm a little confused as to why we need to close this order out.
I would guess we won't be back in front of you for at least a year. At least, maybe 2 years.
So,
And I think also what we had proposed in that notice of intent, it's really changed somewhat because that notice of intent was just for the Chandonnet property. And now we're talking about most of Cayenne Street. We are also going to have to go into the canal and take some sediments out.
all right, so are the booms still in the canal?
The booms are there. This is downstream of the booms.
Okay, so it would be my understanding then that if you're looking to close this out, there's no work going to be going on site until you're just in the conceptual phase now as to what you're going to be doing going forward. So
Yeah.
you've got no work proposed on site. It's stabilized under the order.
Yes.
Under the original order, and all the work that was proposed under that to stabilize the site has been done. And it's your certification that that's the case.
That is correct.
Okay.
Our likely approach is going to be, we have a regulatory deadline coming up at the end of July. We're going to be filing a temporary solution. So we have stabilized the site currently,
Okay,
with the understanding that once we get all these approvals in place, we will then retract that and go clean it up.
all right. Is there any comments, Commissioner Toner, or questions?
You said that you had the deeds all settled out, right? So you guys, the National Grid now owns the property, and you're just waiting on the owners to come together? Is that what?
Pardon me?
So have you purchased the property from the original owner?
There are, the properties go 1 Cayenne Street, 9 Cayenne, 15 Cayenne, 19 Cayenne.
Okay.
The city owns 1 and 9. The transformer reclamation activities were on 1 Cayenne. 15 Cayenne was, all these properties are vacant right now. 15 Cayenne was owned by, I don't know who it was, Colonial Gas purchased 15 Cayenne from someone about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And National Grid now owns Colonial Gas.
So you would be increasing the scope on this project, like you're no longer looking for just this one area, you're trying to increase the
We're
scope?
going to do all of Cayenne Street,
Okay,
plus the canal.
okay.
Commissioner McDonough? No comments. Commissioner Dillon?
No comments.
All right, Christine, is there anything else from the city?
No.
Okay.
Straightforward.
Just, I mean, there's a lot of technical stuff going on, just as and correct me if I'm wrong, this was a dirty site that was identified. A licensed site professional was put in place to oversee the work. They came before us. There was PCBs on site. I believe you originally discovered this from the leaching out from the canal walls and the sheen on the canal.
That's a different problem.
That was the one up, that was the one you discovered secondarily.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right, so you had come before us for some test pits, you
Yep.
did the test bores and identified the extent, and now all of that has been done, the site's been stabilized, you're looking to close, they proceeded under an order originally to do that work. That's been done, and now you want to close that out, and no work will be going on the site until such time that now that you're going to be going forward, I'm assuming with the DEP, EPA, and through the Conservation Commission as further work goes, but you're going to broaden the scope of,
Yeah.
of what you're doing.
Yeah, you can't see this too well.
Yeah.
These are all the holes we put in on Cayenne Street.
So,
There's over 400 of them.
okay, and you're going to be including the canal work, the canal cleanup in that also?
We've done an investigation in the canal too.
Okay. I mean, just, not that it's, I mean, this is not conditioned on anything here, just out of curiosity, people are listening to this and they're getting, they're hearing mercury and PCBs and, it's obviously, in the canal, and obviously that's a thought or for concern, but what are in your professional opinion, the ability or likelihood of having a successful containment and cleanup of this?
I think it's very high.
Okay.
We'll take it one piece at a time, the canal and then the upland, okay? Because they're kind of two separate areas. The canal, the sediment in there, it's not extensive. There's, just due to the nature of the canal, there's a high bedrock there. Right by 15 Cayenne, there's about 8 feet of sediment. As you go downstream, it really thins out. And the PCB contamination in the canal's not that bad.
Okay.
So that piece is going to be pretty easy to clean up. The upland piece is going to be more difficult. And as I said, we're looking at a stabilization piece because, let me go back to the canal first. The mercury contamination is almost non-existent in the canal too. It's primarily a limited PCB problem.
Okay.
The mercury contamination in the upland is pretty high, to the point that it's restricting where we can go dispose of this material. I was telling Christine on Monday during our site visit, without the mercury, we can get rid of the PCB soils from anywhere from $300 to $400 to $500 a ton. Some of the mercury contamination pushes it up to $3,700 a ton. It really becomes cost prohibitive. And the facility that can take it is in Texas, and they can take 25 yards a day total. And we're looking at several hundred tons of just mercury soil that needs to go.
Okay.
So we're looking at stabilizing that stuff in the ground.
Okay. All right, and I take it you're working closely with Sarah Brown also, so.
Yes, we've tried to, again, set up a meeting with her because I know the city has some plans to, at one point in the future, develop that lovely strip of Cayenne Street.
All right, okay, so without any further comments or questions from the commission, do I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP 206-481?
Motion to issue a certificate of compliance.
By Commissioner McDonough, any second?
Seconded?
Commissioner Toner, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, we'll be in touch.
All right, this next one makes me happy. It's a notice of intent, LEC Environmental Consultants.
Oh, yeah.
Care of the City of Lowell concerning DEP file number 2060759. The project location is 802.2 Lawrence Street, 576 Lawrence Street, 670 Lawrence Street. And it's to perform geotechnical exploratory borings within and adjacent to the Concord River in support of planning and design of 3 bridges and a boardwalk associated with Phase 2B and Phase 3 of the Concord River Greenway.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? I am with LEC Environmental Consultants, and with me tonight is John Hendrickson with Stantec, and they're the design engineers for the project. And as you just heard, the project before the commission tonight is a notice of intent in support of the next phase of the Concord River Greenway. And before that design goes underway, there needs to be geotechnical exploratory borings performed at discrete sections along the Concord River to support the planning and design of 3 bridge structures and a boardwalk. The 3 areas, 2 of the areas are close or at or close to Centennial Island, and then the last one is just north of Andover Street. The borings are either located within the 100-foot buffer zone, the 25-foot riverfront area, and/or the 100-year floodplain, the bordering land subject to flooding. So because there are 11 borings in total, and some of them are just within the 25-foot riverfront area and the bordering land subject to flooding. So those particular ones are subject to this notice of intent. The others are just conveyed for informational purposes. But in all cases except for one, they're located within within upland areas. One of the borings is located within the Concord River itself. Can you still hear me if I put this down? Okay. And then,
Is that BB4?
yeah, BB4 is located within the river. So the intent is to conduct these exploratory borings this spring. However, the one located in the river, because the water level is too high, the plan is to do it in the summertime when the water level has receded some. Access to the borings in all other cases will be done from upland areas using an all-terrain vehicle with a rig of the boring, the drill rig. And there'll be, let's see, in order to protect the adjacent resource areas, we will be putting compost filter tubes in a semicircle at the down gradient side to contain any sediment. The borings will be advanced about 30 feet down, and the wash water used during the process will be conveyed from the truck tank to the hole, and then back into a frac tank where sedimentation occurs, and so there'll be a recycling of that water. And once each hole the boring is complete, the sediment from the tailings from the frac tank will be used to backfill and then restore the site to pre-existing conditions. The area will be seeded, raked, seeded, and straw hay will be applied. The activity is temporary in nature, so following this activity, you won't really notice anything. Any questions as I continue?
Yeah, could you, couple things. Are all the borings of the same nature as you described? And when I understand the process, you're going down, I'm assuming, are you trying to go down to bedrock, or is that the idea here?
Yes, as far as, and John can interject, but in case of, they're trying to go down to bedrock, in the circumstance where they encounter bedrock, I understand that they'll go down additional 10 feet just to see the depth of the bedrock.
That's correct. I mean, the goal is to find a strong subsurface condition to place a foundation for a bridge. Hopefully, it will hit ledge. And like Andrea said, if we've hit ledge, we'll go down 10 feet to make sure it's not a boulder, that it is actually ledge.
And What's the diameter of these borings?
This, boy, they're less than 6 inches.
Okay.
They're less than 6. It's
Right.
really just to get an area of the substrate that's underneath.
All right, and you plant, and they'll be backfilled in the same day, pretty much?
Yes, yes.
How long do you think the process, and there's a number of them. How many in total are there?
We actually think it's only going to take about 3 days.
Okay. How many borings in total do you think?
We're planning 11 borings
Right.
at this point.
Okay. All right.
The only one, like Andrea said, we'd have to come back in the summer is with the one that's actually in the water.
Are all these areas accessible fairly easily with your all-terrain boring machine here? Or?
Yeah, so I can go through each one to say the ease and maybe some challenges that will occur. The BB1 is at the existing terminus of the existing Greenway Trail that extends from Lawrence Street to Roger Street, so
Yep.
that is easily accessible. BB2 access can be made. There's a parking lot off of Lawrence Street and an existing old dilapidated path to BB2, and that's very reasonable and accessible. And if you continue down the path, you can hit BB5. So that is simple. Behind the condominiums at Sterling Bay Apartments, they would access from their parking lot area. BB4 will, if they cannot access it from an upland area with an extendable arm or however it is, they'll take a barge, from what I understand, up to that spot. And what I didn't mention is that there are going to be weighted silk curtains around, encircling the location of that boring so that any sediment will be contained there. These particular BB6, WB1, SB3, 2, and 1 can be accessed from the upland, either coming down the grass slope and squeezing in next to the wetland, or from the, there's a long, tall retaining wall and a parking lot, so that's another option from atop there. BB7 is interesting. It's sort of landlocked, or it's access. Either access can be made either from Andover Street itself, or coming down a slightly steep vegetated embankment to gain access there. In which case, there would be a limited amount of vegetation clearing there. Or trimming just to get the access.
Why the change in nomenclature for the various boreholes? You have WB, BB, and SB.
I don't know.
The names of the borings?
Yeah. I mean, they usually, you know, I mean, in my years of doing this, you know, we usually see a TB1 through 11.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was just curious as to, you know, it does the S, the W, and the B signify a different type of boring method. So,
I can convey that after the meeting tonight. I can certainly let you know that.
okay.
As far as I know, all the borings are the same, so I'm not sure why they're not labeled the same.
All right. It just, you know, usually when there's a change, there's a reason, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the boardwalk is planned for this area, whereas bridges are planned every place else. So I don't know if it's related to the kind of structure is going to go there, but I don't want to.
Yeah. I don't know,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
That's
All right.
That's the only thing.
Are you anticipating, I know you had characterized, I think it's the BB4 boring that you had indicated that you would potentially do that with a barge. Is there any, and you would also characterize so you would like to do this in the spring, or you want to wait until after the spring?
Since the water level is too high, the preference is to do it in the summer.
Okay.
So all the other design work will keep moving, and then once the water level conditions are appropriate, then they'll go out there and do it.
Okay, yeah, because you're aware, I would trust, that this stretch of the Concord River is used for whitewater rafting in the springtime. It's actually on the map for doing it nationwide, so people come here from all over the country to do this, so they're
We wouldn't want to interfere with,
they're, I don't know, a Class 3 rapids, I guess, when they get really going, so it's, I know Parks and Conservation Trust organizes those rafting tours, so.
thanks for clarifying that, I wasn't aware, so
Yeah,
that's
so I
good
just
to know.
didn't, that should be, I mean, if you are thinking of doing anything during the spring months, that should be coordinated with them, because I know they have access points where they put rafts in and take them out, so it would be, you wouldn't want to be impeding their, their charter and their abilities.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, we are actually coordinating with them for the clearance underneath the bridges. But yeah, you're right, we should be coordinating with them on this also.
Yeah, and I know, I've been down there in the spring months, and it's a little bit odd to be standing on the bank of the Concord River near the Centennial Island next to some of the banks, and the water is 6 or 7 feet over your head, 10 feet away. So it's moving so rapidly, it doesn't even escape the banks, so.
Yeah.
It's a pretty amazing sight, and people don't realize it's right in their backyard,
Yeah.
so. All right, and that's one of the reasons why this has been, and I'm kind of a little sad that Commissioner Varnum isn't here, because we've been on this commission, she's been on it a lot longer than I have. I've been on it since the mid-1990s, and this was this was related to another project. It wasn't an idea, but the commission had requested the city to impress us with something in order to effect a land swap in the Highlands a number of years ago, and a piece of conservation land, and this was the idea.
Yeah.
And it's finally starting to, there's been a lot of stops and starts and false starts through the years, but there's been a lot of meetings and a lot of planning about this, so I'm finally thrilled to see this really starting to take a tangible step forward, so, as part of a history, it's kind of exciting, and to be able to utilize this stretch of the river and to complete the walkway and the bike path right eventually into the downtown would just be phenomenal, so, it really would be a gem, so.
I agree.
Do you have any other comments?
None, other than I neglected to pass over the certificate of mailing receipt.
Oh, just give those to Christine. Do you have the green sheets, the green stubs?
We sent them out certificate of mailing, which was coordinated with the city to, that's another acceptable option.
Okay.
Instead of, because there were so many letters, that just sending them out via certificate of mailing assures that they were delivered, but without the receipt.
Okay.
Put them back. In addition, I just wanted to, and I believe the commission might know about, that we don't have all the property owner signatures, because some of the properties are on private property, we don't have their signatures on the notice of intent yet, but we're hopeful that they would come, that we will receive them within the next week or so. So obviously the city of Lowell has signed off, but there are 2 additional property owners. One is Centennial Island Hydroelectric, and then the related Sterling Bay, the condo owner. Before we can conduct the work, they need to acknowledge that this notice of intent was submitted, and that we will have access to their property to do the borings.
Is some of that being done on their property?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we need to wait for those also. We can't close this out without that.
Yeah, that's fine. We've had to send out letters to them when they did the wetlands delineation this past fall. So we have been getting permission from the property owners all along. I think now it's just an administrative.
Yeah, I know the Centennial Island folks are aware of this, because they've been very gracious throughout the years about us, giving us access to the property and in order to make plans and take measurements and stuff like that. I've been out there a number of times. The other property owners, I can't comment on because I'm not familiar, but.
And
Okay.
then just one final point that I emailed Judy an updated plan sheet 4, which supersedes your sheet in the application. The 25-foot riverfront area was not depicted correctly on the notice of intent plans. It offset the wetland line in part instead of it just exclusively the bank mean annual high water line. So I will leave the revised plan sheet with the commission, a hard copy tonight. And then there was an electronic copy emailed, and then you have it before in your hand now. So it's just where the riverfront area comes.
All right, are there any questions from the commission? Commissioner Toner?
No questions.
Commissioner McDonough? Commissioner Dillon?
No comments.
All right, I am going to open this up now. We're not going to close the public hearing tonight because we have to await those signatures. But I am going to open it up to comments with the comment that if you want to speak either for or on behalf of this project or against this project, you will not be foreclosed from speaking again because this is going to have to come up. We'll bring it up at the next hearing, and we'll continue it to then. You can speak again at that point in time, or if you do not speak tonight, or if you're not here tonight, that will not prevent you from speaking in the future either. So is there anyone here who would like to offer their comments or concerns either for or against this project? Is there anyone here who would like to offer their comments or concerns either for or against? Okay, the chair is hearing none. So what I would like is a motion to continue to the March 23rd? March 23rd date for the Conservation Commission.
Motion to continue.
Thank you. And seconded by Commissioner Dillon.
I'll
right?
second that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And do you feel confident that you will secure those additional owner signatures by then? Okay, I would assume that there's been discussions already.
We've received one back today. I'm not exactly sure but of the 3, we've got one back today. And so we just think at this point, it's just an administrative turnaround
Okay.
from the property
All right,
owners.
so you're not anticipating any troubles?
I don't
All
think
right.
so, no.
Okay. Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And I know Commissioner Varnum will be thrilled to participate in this one also, so.
Yeah, and then once the whole design is complete, we'll be before the commission at that phase as well.
Well, but it's still, this is the first concrete, to put it, no pun intended, but the first concrete action we've seen on this in decades, so it's good to finally get here. Moving on to the next item on tonight's agenda is a request for determination of applicability. Michelle Rivera, 54 Shirley Avenue. Project location is the same, and it's a proposal to remove a rotting and termite-infested trees located in the floodplain.
Good evening. Michelle Rivera, 54 Shirley Ave.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Ms. Rivera. You were here before, right?
Yes, sir.
And, okay. Are these the trees that were out front by the driveway, or where are these trees located? I
These-
remember the pictures, but I'm trying to,
Yeah.
in my mind, I'm trying to place them now.
Yeah, because I was here for a number of other trees and just for kind of
You were
bringing
doing
my
some-
whole lawn
you
up
were
to
doing
life.
some work for a
Yes.
pool and stuff.
I did that as
Yeah.
well. Yep.
Okay.
So there's two trees that they're huge. I don't even know how to explain it, but they're on the line of me and my neighbor, and those two trees were not touched. Apparently, they are at the end of their life, and they're actually infested with termites. I was not aware of that. I left that situation alone, and I focused on everything else that I came forward to address. All that being said, a few weeks ago, maybe less than a month ago, we had some strong winds, very, very strong winds throughout the city of Lowell, and it actually knocked like right in half, probably 3/4 down. Yeah, about 3/4 of the tree just fell right in front of the lawn. And in doing so, it like nicked my car, which wasn't the major concern. It actually took the post and the electrical wires down. And it did spark, and it was raining as well, and my whole street was blacked out because of it. And, you know, we called 911, clearly, police, Lowell Police Department was there, and the fire department was there, and they really emphasized on safety more so about the tree. They focused more on the safety, because there's also another tree by the driveway, right in front of my garage, that was one of the trees that I just was allowed to groom, kind of like, because it was overgrown. But that tree is still wrapping up on those wires. So they just suggested that gets additional grooming because of the fact that now it is, you know, they're tangling up with the electrical posts, the wires. National Grid had come down. They were there till 3 a.m. trying to get everybody's electricity back up and running because of the tree that fell. The other tree that did not fall is in the same state of condition. So why I'm here is because I already had an experience coming forward with a whole tree situation. So I want to make sure, one, I can remove that tree, and two, what are the chances of removing the other tree before it falls in my house? Because this one's not in front of my lawn, it's actually very close to my house. And with the second time around of the strong winds, it was swaying. Like I really, and I'm not lying, I couldn't sleep because I was scared this tree was gonna fall. It was swaying. So I actually called Christine and said, yeah, this happened again, but the tree didn't crack in half. So I just want, I understand the significance of these trees, however, they're really insignificant at this time because they really have no life left, and the termites are just eating them away. There's holes, like big holes. You can see them.
They could be post beetles, too. but-
Oh, maybe, but the tree person that assisted with my tree removal last time identified it and said, yes, that it was termites. It was infested.
Okay. All right. Who was your tree person that took,
Tommy Tree, he's local, he does a lot of work throughout the city.
and he's the one who removed the,
He has not, I have not allowed anyone to touch that fallen tree in front of
it's
my
still
lawn
down?
yet. It's still there,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
Well,
Has it-
and then we got snow afterwards, so it was a little, not buried, but it was covered. It was just, it wasn't time for me to do it anyways. I wanted to come here first.
Okay. Are you planning on putting up some newer small trees?
I was not thinking of that.
Okay.
I was not even thinking of like doing what I did with the other ones that were, you know, pretty huge and dead. I actually had them removed and, you know, stumped and grabbed. I wasn't thinking of doing that with these. I was just trying to get them down, I don't know. I mean, the trunk is enormous. So I was just gonna kind of leave the trunk there if they recommend that it was safe to do so. Because being that it has termites, you know, I don't specialize in trees, so I need to always question these people as to what they recommend I should do. My concern is that because they're probably as tall as the ceiling, it falling on my house.
Okay.
Because they are very, very big trees.
All right. Any questions from the, any questions from the commission? No, I think we can easily -3 this, so. All right, so do I have a motion to issue a -3?
Motion to issue the -3.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. That's a good thing. That means you can take the trees down.
Okay, great. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Have a great evening.
Next item on tonight's agenda is a certificate of compliance request by New England Power Company concerning DEP file number, this can't be right, 206.
Yes.
It's right.
That is right?
The next two agenda items are from the 70s. Louisa is on the Conservation Commission on those orders.
Yeah, I'm
Or
sure.
have
She
those
was here
from
from
the
the beginning.
72, I think.
Yeah, I was sorry when I found out she was going to be here tonight, because I thought
She
she
probably remember these. These are before you were born,
They are
probably.
before I was born.
Certificate of compliance concerning, I'm going to take these two together. DEP file number 20651 and 20659. And the project location is various locations, Meadowbrook number 16 to North Chelmsford number 2 project. It's an order of conditions was issued on May 22, 1979 for the installation of 2 new transmission lines along an existing right-of-way and removing 2 existing lines, as well as installing new gravel access roadways. And on the 5-9 order, the project location was various locations in Tewksbury number 22 to Perry Street number 3 project. So an order of conditions was issued on September 7th, 1979 for the installation of an electric transmission line with associated gravel access roadway, gravel pads, poles, and tree clearing along an existing right-of-way.
Okay.
If you could identify yourself for the record.
Yeah, for the record, I'm Tracy Duart from Conoco Engineers, here on behalf of New England Power. I've been closing out a lot of really old orders of conditions that have seemed to have fallen through the cracks through the years. And we've identified them by doing registry research and finding that there's orders without certificates attached to them, and then following through, calling the Concoms to make sure there was never a certificate issued. So this is actually the only one from the 70s, or the only two, I should say, that you guys actually had the plans on file. And the plans were stamped by a PE, so for that, I went and did the site inspections. I even met Christine on a second inspection. So for project 20651, that is right where the Middlesex Canal goes under the Route 3, just north of it. There's about 3 sets of 2 poles on one side of the canal and 3 sets of 2 poles on the other side, so about 12 poles total that were installed in the 70s.
Are the poles still standing?
Some are still standing, some have since been replaced with newer metal poles, which is a lot of what they're doing now. There's an FH Webb or FW Webb.
So we've probably issued
There's been-
orders for the new poles and cleared those projects out already, and these are still kicking around?
They're still kicking around. So, yeah, there definitely has been. There's an NOI, file number
All right.
posted there.
People are getting power, businesses are getting power.
Everything's getting power. These have just somehow fallen through the crack. I think because there's no address attached to them, you can have multiple file numbers open. Nobody ever knows they haven't been closed out.
All right. Do I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance? I'm not even going to deal with
I
this.
issue a certificate of compliance.
All right, on both of them. This is for 20651 and 20659. Congratulations, you set a record for the oldest outstanding orders, so. Not to mention the fact that they're void on their own by statute, but if you just want to close them out, that's fine. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner McDonough. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. All right, you're all set.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in. Next item on tonight's agenda is an enforcement order, Donald Doubleday. Violation location is 71 Shirley Lane. It's a shed, playground set, and trailer are located within the 25-foot riverfront associated with the Clay Pit Brook and bordering vegetated wetlands and floodplain. I believe Mr. Doubleday contacted the office requesting a continuance because he's traveling on business?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. There is an outstanding enforcement order. This was as a result of looking at the aerial photographs from the other enforcement order, and we noted this was a recent project. I believe it was built in the probably the late 2000s. And from the aerial photographs, we noticed that there was activity that was in the no disturb zone from the project. So I had requested a site visit, and as a result of that, it was confirmed. So it's not a big deal, but the shed needs to be moved out of this area, or there needs to be an order associated with its placement, because it's one, not an allowable structure where it is. So, and neither are the other activities allowable where they are. So, you know, this was a identified no disturb zone as part of the original project, and but regardless, even if it wasn't, they're still not allowed activities where they are. So. What I would like to do now is ratify. We don't need the owner here. I'd like to ratify if there's no questions. Christine, if you could fill in the board as to what was observed on the site. I believe there's pictures that were sent anyway, but
Yes.
yeah,
We
those are attached, but.
Yep, on the site visit, there was a shed, multiple playground sets, and a trailer with a hitch just parked along Clay Pit Brook back there. Well beyond the retaining wall that has been considered the no disturb zone border.
Okay,
That's
all right.
about it.
So do I have a motion to ratify the enforcement order, first of all?
I move to ratify the enforcement order.
Okay, and seconded by
Second.
Commissioner McDonough, motion by Commissioner Toner. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, opposed, the ayes have it. Now, going forward, Mr. Doubleday could not be here tonight. What I would like to do is continue this to the 23rd, and then just send notice, contact Mr. Doubleday, and let him know that this will be heard on the 23rd going forward. The site is stable now, so this is just the placement of structures. So it's not like the area was disturbed. These structures, from the looks of it, have been there for a little while. So it's not a stabilization issue. There's no recent disturbance. It's just a matter of they need to be moved. And going forward, just to figure out a plan as to just get them out of there. I mean, if he just wants to put them on a truck and move them out of the riverfront area, that's fine. But, you know, and the matter's done, but he should do that in coordination with the office, so.
Sure.
Okay, and I mean, he can do that before the 23rd, by the way, so. Okay. It's not, I don't think this is an overly complex, it's not like he has to reseed the area and regrade, and he doesn't need to do any of that. He just needs to move the structure out of there, so, okay. Or get a permit to put it there, but again, that's not something we could even permit, so it's not an allowable use at all, so. All right. We have a motion to continue to the 23rd?
Motion to continue to the 23rd.
All right,
Second.
seconded. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Do we have any other business, Christine? No?
Nope, that's everything.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn?
Commissioner Toner, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner McDonough. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and good night.